All right, so I was watching Legion of Men and I was scrolling through one of his videos. One of his videos really caught my eye. Why men have no real friends. And it made me start thinking about going to college and being around people all of the time. And you just oppose that to life after college, where no one's required to be your friend. No one's required to talk to you. No one's required to be around you. And since the year that I got out of college, which was 2017, every year after that has been more damning, more isolating, and definitely harder on you because you're not around anyone anymore. And for me, the social isolation after college was very profound because my last year of college, I was working as hard as I could at getting married before I got out of school. I really, really wanted to get married before I got out of college because I knew that meeting anyone afterwards was going to be nearly impossible. Because that's typically where you find your significant other because there's so many people at school that are single. But there's something that I noticed while I was doing this is that a lot of my female friends, which as an English lit major, all my friends were females, that they weren't dating. In fact, I met many of them that had spent 4 years at college and never gone on a single date. This meant that women weren't participating, and not because they didn't want to, but an average looking woman at a place like ASU is not going to be noticed. And so you have all of these average looking people that are looking for above average significant others. And that means that you have a lot of men that are going to stay perpetually single for their entire lives, like I have. And the isolation and loneliness that comes with that is something that you have to become accustomed to because it's very hard to deal with loneliness and isolation in the regular world. I can go to my job, be there 8 hours, and never have a single conversation. Not one. Not anything more than you need to fill out this form, or I need to fill out this piece of paperwork, or I need to call to have something repaired. But no real conversations are had. And I've done an entire video on NPCs. We literally come up to each other and we talk to each other like I'm not sure if you guys played Zelda, A Link to the Past. I know it's an old one. Um, but when you walk into a village, you go up to other NPCs and they just have a chat bubble. That's our daily conversations with the people that don't matter in our lives. I'm going to be at the gym in about 44 minutes. And from the moment I walk in, depending who's at the front desk, if it's one of those bros that's hanging out there, they don't say anything. With the ladies that are up front, usually I'll interact with them for 5 to 10 minutes because they have interesting things to say, but men don't. And that's the difference that I've noticed between men and women is that men with women, we talk. Men with men don't talk. And that's created a further isolating like, environment that we have been conditioned to accept. So the emptiness and what do I put this? How do I add this? Like life, not only in the sense of overall quality of our low quality jobs, our low quality interactions with each other, everything about life has changed since I was a child. And I don't think it's for the better. I think that men, especially men who have never dated, who have never had a significant other, and men who have stayed in a state of wanting to meet someone and not been able to do it because that other person isn't there. Like I said, I go to the gym sometimes every weekend. Anytime I'm not working, I have two gym sessions every single day. I have my morning lift and I have my afternoon cardio. During those times, I will rarely interact with another person at all. The janitor might come up to me and give me a fist bump, but that's it. And because LA Fitness is closing down like 4 or 5 different locations in this area because they're not profitable, all of those gyms that are being closed down is going to send a surplus of people that go to those gyms regularly to my gym because it's staying open. And that means that I am going to see even more people come to the gym and see the same isolation. I've never seen anything like this where you have so many lonely people walking past each other, and men don't acknowledge other men even in these places. I've seen it. I've passed them, and men will either look the other way or they'll just look at your muscles. I know that's the first thing I notice is other men that look like me, right? You had the traditional giant chest and then arms. So for some reason, everyone likes arms. Anyhow, let's get into these 3 talking points. I want to do it as quickly as possible because I have to get ready to go. So here we go. With no gym class or neighborhood pickup game, many men have turned to digital worlds to fill the void. But can Fortnite squads or Call of Duty matches ever replace real life camaraderie? Virtual connections are fleeting, lacking the depth that comes from shared struggles or physical interaction. I've seen guys online spend hours gaming with people they've never met in person, while their real world relationships crumble. Are men becoming prisoners of the digital escape? I would say yes. Um, all of the people that have worked for me over the past 3 years, all my Gen Zeros, they're all in the digital prison. And the reason for that is their entire lives revolve around playing video games. They do nothing else. They don't work out. They don't go outside. They don't have friends. They don't really do anything other than play video games. And I'll tell you from my own personal experience, that was me. I played Call of Duty every day for 12 years. It wasn't until the fourth Call of Duty Black Ops game came out that I finally decided, you know what? This is stupid. I'm not gaining anything out of this. Who cares? No one cares how good I am at playing Call of Duty. And I've played Call of Duty on here before, and I'm a very good Call of Duty player. I'm not going to, say I'm not. But it took a long time for me to become a good Call of Duty player. And while I was in the digital prison, nothing came of it. There's nothing you can do by being a good Call of Duty player, especially when you play on PC. Um, but it was just a bad time. During that time, it was the poorest I've ever been in my entire life. I mean, I've lived my life pretty dirt poor. Let's just face it. I mean, a person who spends their entire life not being able to afford a car is poor. Like, wretchedly starving poor. And it was something I just couldn't get out of no matter what I tried, no matter what other degree I got, no matter how hard I tried to find a job. I couldn't find anything more than minimum wage, which is again is another trap. Once upon a time, friendships were forged through simple, inexpensive activities like biking around the neighborhood or playing basketball at the local park. Now, even the most basic forms of recreation come with a price tag. Gym memberships, team sports, outdoor equipment. For men in the working class or struggling economically, making friends can feel like a luxury they can't afford. How do you bond with others when every activity feels out of reach? Again, when it comes to money, and what men can afford to do. Men do sports, men have hobbies. What I've always wondered is how women find each other because, at least in my experience throughout my entire life, most women don't have any hobbies whatsoever. Women, especially attractive women, spend a lot of time making themselves look good. It is a full time job as a woman to look good. Clothes, nails, lashes, makeup, hair, working out. I mean, it is to stay looking, to stay at 10, it takes a lot of work. Like you're constantly working on yourself in order to maintain that high level of looking good because it's not easy to do because if it was easy to look really good, all women would be tens. But instead, I would say like 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 1,000 women is a perfect specimen. Every other woman's got problems, problem areas, and they're well aware of it. I mean, they're not trying to attract a GQ model because they know they're not GQ model material. But even a five, a 5 out of 10 woman is still going to desire a man that she's physically attracted to. Or sometimes you just look at couples and you look at the difference between them and you wonder what happened there. I ask myself that question all the time. I'll be walking through Kroger's and suddenly I see like a one man, a one on a scale from a 1 to 10 man and a 5 woman. And I'm like, well, either he's got a great personality or he's got so much man meat in his pants that it was just impossible. It had its own gravitational pull. Male loneliness is a vicious cycle. Men who lack friends are less likely to engage in social activities, and the longer they stay isolated, the harder it becomes to break free. Many men I've met are too embarrassed to admit they're lonely, so they retreat further into work or hobbies like gaming. Society tells men to tough it out, but the isolation breeds depression, resentment, and even anger. How can we help men escape this spiral when admitting loneliness feels like a failure? It is incredibly embarrassing as a man to admit loneliness. It is very, very hard for men to show any sort of weakness towards society because society is brutal. In fact, any time that I've expressed these types of feelings to certain alpha women, they despise hearing this. In fact, one of my closest acquaintances, anytime that I tell her that I'm struggling around the holidays, she just looks at me and she says, I don't want to hear about that. I only want to hear positive things, or else I don't want to talk to you. And I mean, you meet that kind of person and you're just like, okay, what's wrong with this person? This person's been conditioned to look at men with problems as broken, as unnecessary, and as things that they don't want in their lives. They either want a man that has resources, that's fully functional. They don't want to date retards. It's really what it comes down to. Is they have so much ability to pick and choose the men that they want in their lives that any man that comes out them that is embarrassed by their loneliness, they don't want you. And I've noticed that throughout my entire life is that a barrier to friendship is often a person that doesn't want a person that's broken around because they don't want to be around a person that's depressed. I mean, this is something that I've heard throughout my life. It's too hard to be around people who are lonely, who are sad, who are depressed, who are anxious, who are panicky. We would prefer not to be around those people. And that creates a spiral of isolation straight down into the abyss. And it's not just about isolation and friendship, it's about everything. It's about your relationship to your dead end job, which most of us shouldn't have any relationship with work. Work is a thing that you go to, you sit for 8 hours, it torments you to the nth degree, and then you go home. Once you get home, that place doesn't exist. And this is something I've tried to do very hard. In fact, last night I was struggling to decide what should I do. Like I didn't know what to think about. I have a massage at 3 o'clock because, oh, Jesus Christ, my back and my quads and my hamstrings are a mess. Yesterday, oh my gosh, yesterday I was in excruciating pain from my right quad, from the injection that I got for B12 injection I got in my hip. Oh my God, I was sitting at the eye doctor's yesterday and I had an excruciating stomach ache while the muscles in my leg were just screaming in pain. And I was just sitting in the lobby. I leaned my head against the wall and I'm like, this is the worst I've felt in public in a long time. And you think to yourself, this is this is life. Just sitting in a Walmart thinking to yourself, why why is this happening to me? Anyhow, I don't really exactly know how to end this video. There's so much here, and looking at the video, just kind of scrolling through this Legion of Men video, you just kind of look through it and you think to yourself, it's like, why does this video have 50,000 views? It's because it's a real problem. Our relationships with everything in our lives are failing. We don't have enough money. We don't have our Susie Rotten crotch. Johnny Sixpack is just out there, shaking hands with the governor. Doesn't know what to think about. And I'm not talking about other people here. We don't know what to think about. Like, your dead end job, you have no friends, you have no significant other. You're going to hop into your Promobile that has eyelashes on it for some reason to cover up the ugly. And then it brings me to the thought of, I was standing at a light yesterday. I rode my bike across the street. And I'm sitting there waiting for the light to turn green. And right next to me pulls up a girl, pretty girl, inside a 30-year-old Geo. It was a 5-speed manual transmission. She was wearing sunglasses. She thought she was the coolest person in the world. And I looked at it and it had a vintage license plate. And I thought, oh my God, that is the ultimate prole woman inside of the ultimate prole car. And it still looked good. I mean, the car looked brand new, even though it was that old. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. And I'm assuming she's driving a 30-year-old car in a Geo Metro, of all things, that she's probably pretty broke. And I don't know why I wanted to include that other than it was the perfect image of a prole woman inside of an iconic prole car. When I think of proles, I see them inside of Geo Metros. But I think that's where I'm going to end the video because it's gone on kind of longer than I expected. This was supposed to be a 10-minute video and it's turned into nearly 18 minutes. So I'm going to stop it there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know this is kind of a little different, but these are problems. These are societal problems that people don't want to address because of simply this. It's embarrassing to admit a lot of the things that are wrong with our society, especially when it comes to the relationships that are no longer happening, even among the lower classes.